collaboration with the Global Challenges grant funding from University of Wollongong, Australia, and our host campus, University of Wollongong in Dubai. My name is Neha Himrani. I'm the chair for the student board at this center and a final year student at UOWD. Along with my colleagues Ubaya, Manatala, Leon, and Sahil, who you would have interacted with sometime at this event, we will be emceeing tonight's event. Before we begin, kindly note some housekeeping. Today's agenda is as shown on the screen for your perusal. For those unfamiliar, ECAIU is a dedicated hub committed to fostering academic integrity, promoting ethical practices, and shaping the future of education through groundbreaking research, collaborations, and initiatives. Here is an introduction video. Thank you, everyone. Tonight's event is a testament to all our partners' visions, bringing together thought leaders and experts from academia, industry, and policy to discuss critical topics shaping our rapidly evolving world. To begin the evening, I would like to invite Dr. Zeenat, founding president of the center, associate professor at UOWD, and primary investigator for Global Challenges Rise Cluster Project, to say a few words.
Thank you, Neha. Good evening, everybody. It's always such a pleasure to start an event with students because this is all about students. That's what we are here for. We're really passionate about everything we do because we're doing it for the future, and they're the future. So before I hand it over to the next speaker, thank you so much, everybody, for coming here. We could not have done this event had it not been for our amazing partners. Besides the Global Challenges funding from University of Wollongong, we also had partners from the industry, such as Power School, Voice, we had Worlds, then we had Studiosity, and of course, a whole lot of others who've just been supporting us throughout. With all of this, we've also had a number of faculty and teachers who are giving their time voluntarily. So I want to take a moment to also thank all the judges and all the mentors who've been with us throughout this process. Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to invite Phil Anderson, board member at the center, to give us an opening note.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the final evening of the AI in My Classroom Incubator program. Promises to be an exciting evening. Last 2 years, there have been many different discussions around AI. I've been in lots of meetings around AI. Some have been very fruitful. Some where I've walked out thinking, just gone around in circles here, haven't I? And but I think tonight we're going to come out with a lot of take-homes. We're going to go through, actually, just to talk about my role, actually. So my role, I work at the University of Birmingham as an assistant professor. I work with schools, I work training in schools, I work with the master's program. as well, and I work with a lot of teachers, and it's probably the favorite part of my role. And working on this incubator program, working with teachers, it really does emphasize the point that when we have this discussion about AI, academic integrity, ethics in AI, really teachers should be front and center of this whole discussion. So I'm glad that we've reached the pinnacle of this. So tonight, we're going to be having the roundtable discussion of the Green Paper. And the Green Paper, it provides this comprehensive framework of the discussion around AI, the ethical and effective integration of generative AI across schools and into the classroom. When we're dealing with children and vulnerable people, I think that really the biggest topics that we should be talking about are in this paper: data privacy, equity, and academic integrity. The evening will continue. We'll be discussing the winners of the AI in the classroom competition with generative AI across schools and in the classroom. So yes, so thank you very much, and let the games begin, as they say.
Next, we draw inspiration from the Faith Conference held in Turkey this past August. We're honored to introduce Akash Khan, a grade 6 student who will be joining our center next year. As students, we are part in this journey, and Akash's fresh perspective will set the tone for tonight's event. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Today, I'm going to talk about what I think about academic integrity. Academic integrity means doing your work honestly and so that people can trust you. But I feel that ChatGPT isn't always good. It depends on how you use it. Like maybe, for example, students, they could use it to finish their homework because they're too lazy, or because maybe the question is too hard, or maybe they just feel that they do use ChatGPT, it will make it much easier. Then when they show the worksheets to the teacher, maybe the teacher will think that they're really good at the subject. Then when they actually do the exam without any ChatGPT or the assessments, well, then what are they supposed to do? They're gonna get bad marks, low marks, because before they used ChatGPT. For teachers, maybe then it would be a good perspective because maybe teachers could use it in how do you say, maybe they could make question sheets for students. They could make long question sheets and they could get the answers also from ChatGPT, which would make it much easier to get it. Or they could maybe make like how teachers normally make PPTs for their students. They can make something like that on ChatGPT with fun topics and fun games and assignments. So I think that ChatGPT is good and bad. It depends on how the person uses it. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash. I would like to now invite Dr. Heri Rajamani, Head of School of Engineering at UOWD, to give his welcome note.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to see you all here and to host you at the University of Wollongong in Dubai. And so thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking your time, beating the traffic to reach here. So really thank you. And this topic title, I think, is very much on our hearts. And we really appreciate you taking the effort to understand what this technology is going to do in the future. AI for us in terms of academia, we see it as a very, very big, should we say, paradigm shift. You know, we see it as something that is going to revolutionize the way we educate people, the way we work in industry, the way we even communicate with everyone, you know. We feel it's going to be a source of great creativity. We're going to see people really engaging in the creative side. You know, for many years, education has, of course, been very traditional. We've had to learn facts. Some of us had to go into a library and look for information, spend hours looking for the right book. And it used to take us a lot of time. And it was so precious, those words. Now we can access it, which gives us the time now to be creative with that information. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and particularly when we look at the issue of AI and integrity and ethics, I believe this is an opportune time for us to influence the direction of AI, particularly in this region and in the Middle East, which is striving to be leading in this area. I think if you look at the UAE documents, you will notice that the UAE has placed a high importance on AI and automation and Industry 4.0 and all these kind of technologies which rely underneath is AI. So really exciting part. And I think when you deal with students also, they are starting to engage with it. Of course, there's the learning curve of how to use it. I remember the time when people used to talk on the mobile phone and cross the road, They still do a bit, but not as much as before, because they started knowing how to use the mobile phone, So I think it's the same thing with AI. It can make changes. And I think we've really got to spend time thinking, how do we use it to change our teaching methods? How do we use it to change our assessment strategies? So really, we need to think, in my view, it's not about just integrity. It's how do you develop the human mind now that it has an extra tool. So this is where the challenge lies. How do you develop the mind now? It's got more information now. How do you make that mind more fruitful, more creative? Because definitely we're going to see breakthroughs in technology, breakthroughs in science, breakthroughs in almost every field because of AI. So people thought, when they started bringing the computers, that offices would become empty. No, we're just becoming more productive. It's not that we're empty, we're just very, very productive. And I think humanity needs to get to be productive if we're going to sustain the way we are living today, The sustainability of life depends on us becoming productive, efficient, conserving the environment. These all need AI. So AI and integrity, really thank you, Zena, for organizing this event and for bringing all of you together, I think, to brainstorm this. And I think you're producing a green paper or a white paper. I'm not sure. I didn't know there was a difference in the color of papers. But whatever it is, it's going to be amazing. And I know I've seen some of the panelists. I know you've got an amazing set of panelists. So I think this is going to be an exciting workshop. So really just want to thank you all for joining us here. And really Wollongong's approach is to be on the forefront of these technologies, to use it, to adapt it, to help society change for the better. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ubayya. I'm a student board member at the center, and I'm a third-year pharmacy student at Ajman University. To start our program, it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Ashraf Mahati, the Chief Economist for Trade and Export Market Development at the Dubai Department of Economy and Tourism. With extensive regional experience, he provides econometric analysis and evidence-based policy advice to support economic growth and diversification in Dubai and the UAE. Dr. Mahati is an accomplished academic and public speaker, contributing to trade, industrial development, and entrepreneurship initiatives. He has worked with international agencies like the UN and Inter-American Development Banks and holds a doctorate from Bayes Business School, City University of London. Published author, he regularly writes on trade, innovation, and finance. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ashraf Mahati.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a wonderful introduction. I don't think I could have done better myself. And it's certainly wonderful for me to come back here. I was actually an academic here many, many years ago. And so for me, it's a pleasure to see familiar faces, new surroundings, of course, but familiar places and familiar issues. Because when I started teaching, when I was much younger and much thinner, we actually had blackboards and we used overhead projectors. And I think to myself, technical advancements have always taken place in education. Then there have always been double-edged swords. When I was a student many years ago, for many decades ago, we used calculators. And then I remember the debates. And even as a child, you thought about it, you thought, what, all the newspapers were saying, what, students are using calculators. They're going to forget how to do mental arithmetic. It's going to be the end of STEM. It's going to be the end of good quality mathematical education. What is happening? But it didn't. What it meant was that we actually learned to do things of a higher magnitude when it came to maths. We didn't have to look at logbooks and remember what page to go on. So things moved on. And then there was the internet, the wonderful internet, which brought knowledge to the masses and easy access to information. Amazing. But it also brought in the phrase cut and paste, right? A phrase that we're all familiar with. We all now understand. Yes, we cut and paste things. And again, as academics, that brought a huge problem to us. How do we trust our students? How do we know that they haven't just cut and pasted from the internet? And then we had wonderful things called turnitin.com, which helped us. Yes? My dear friend Noah was actually taught me how to use turnitin.com. It was many years ago, and I still use it. So there was plagiarism detection software, and that helped us. But did it really help us? Because now students have become so clever, they know how to use turnitin.com, and that's created a new industry in itself called paraphrasing software, right? So students are far clever. In fact, not only students, it was entrepreneurs who created this industry. It was entrepreneurs who created Quillbolt and many such software. And then I actually had a wonderful experience last year. I was giving a guest lecture at one of the universities, and I asked a question because my background is, of course, economics. So I asked a question, and one of the students just used her mobile watch, and she went on Clegg. And I thought to myself, it's amazing. Even mobile phones are not safe. Students can get answers from Clegg and other Quizlet and other kind of software. And the same thing with watches. There are software things called photomats. You put your watch and you can get the answers. So students have always had this issue. But even when students haven't been trying to deliberately cheat or deliberately take advantage of the system, technology itself has brought challenges. When we look at VR and AR, it simplifies complex human issues. And students assume that they have a mastery of the subject when they don't. And this is no fault of students themselves. So really, technology is a challenge, and it has been a challenge. But what I find interesting is about AI. What is different about AI? Earlier technologies, such as calculators and even online information sources such as encyclopedias, they required input from students. Students had to work out what sentence or what paragraph to cut and paste, right? And whether it made sense. AI is highly adaptable. You can have a conversation. The young man who came here and gave a talk about ChatGPT, you can have a conversation with ChatGPT, and you can actually adapt your answer to meet your needs. That wasn't possible. And it's not possible with Clegg, it's not possible with photomats. So AI is very, very different. The scalability, the extent to which you can produce output in an extremely short space of time. But for me personally, it's the blurring of creativity and originality, right? Traditional technology is very different. AI blurs this divide that we had. What is creativity and what is originality? And I think that brings a lot of issues that we as academics need to challenge. But before we do, we should also differentiate that there are actually two types of AI. There's generative AI, and there's this assistive AI that helps and supports students to learn, right? We shouldn't dismiss the benefits of we shouldn't dismiss the benefits of supportive AI. Now, that leads to another very interesting question. And the question should be, where are we now? But before we answer that question, as somebody who looks at policy and somebody who researches things, we need to look at equity. does AI bring equity? To use AI, what do we need? We need the internet. According to the International Telecommunications Union, 2/3 of the world is connected to the internet. So by definition, 1/3 of the world is not connected to the internet. There's a huge digital divide, a massive digital divide. But who does this affect? Does it affect the UAE, where 100% of the population is connected to the internet? Or does it affect low-income countries? And in fact, it is the low-income countries. When we look at the low-income countries, only 27% of the population is connected to the internet. When we look at conflict-ridden countries, countries that are dealing with conflict, and there are 54 conflicts in the world at the moment now, currently according to the United Nations, and there, again, the digital divide is even larger. When I look at Africa, a country that I go to quite often for work, only 27% of the population is connected to the internet. These are full statistics. And then there's a divide between rural and urban population. In rural areas, only 50% of the population on average is connected. There's also a gender divide. When we talk about AI, we should not forget there's a gender issue. There are 50% more men connected to the internet than women globally, right? And that brings its own issues. So for me, when I look at the digital divide and I look at AI, before I look at the challenges, we need to look at the equity issues, right? How can AI bring equity and access to educational resources for the masses, especially the people who are not connected? Then we have the issue of how does this impact the quality of education for 1/3 of the people who are not connected to the internet, right? How do we create better teaching and development for the people who are left out in the digital divide, right? What we call the digital south, the one that's not connected. How do we create better teaching? How do we create better lecturers? Because at the end of the day, what happens? You have a population that is not fit or does not have the appropriate skills for tomorrow, right? If we as educators want to equip people, and Zinat, you said the young people are the future. They are, but only if we equip them correctly. If we do not equip them correctly, we are actually wasting a huge opportunity. And for me, this is very, very important as a policy. Then there's also the idea about infrastructure challenges. How do you deal in a country where you can't get electricity, where you have blackouts, where you have load shedding, right? How do you create access to AI and AI technology? And how do you now find that future generations, the impact you will have on future generations? So for me, what I see as a huge challenge with AI is how do you create AI equity? And how do you help the digital south, right? And how do you deal with the gender imbalances that happen with AI? There's another program I run. It's actually for women entrepreneurs. It's a United Nations program, and it supports this. And one of the things we try to do is create gender equality. But when you find that AI and the benefits of AI are not equally shared, this makes it even worse. So where are we now? Well, the way I look at it, AI is not going anywhere, right? If anything, AI will become stronger, more absorbed in our lives, right? So what does that mean for us as educators? Putting aside the huge elephant in the room, and I think you talked about it in terms of academic integrity, which I'll deal with in a minute. For me, the real issue is how do you bring equitable access? How do you use AI tools to create equitable access? How do you deal with the issues of privacy and data, right? Because at the end of the day, what is AI? It's a language learning model, large language learning. It requires a lot of data, and sometimes a lot of this data is private. How do you use data that actually creates biases? How do you deal with the ethical issues of AI, right? One of the problems that we find, and I try to do this with ChatGPT, ask questions repeatedly in different ways to see what kind of output I would get. And it's interesting, the output is rather homogeneous. And the reason for this is because the source material comes from the north, what I call the digital north. So the output will be from the digital north. So you have a homogeneity of opinions, you have a homogeneity of learning. And that for me as educator is difficult because I want differences in views. I want differences in learning. That's what education is about. It's about challenging the status quo. It's about challenging established views. That's how we learn. That's how we teach, right? Right? So that brings a lot of issues. Then we have issues about intellectual property. And I think that's something that the West is now dealing with in terms of who owns the output. How do you control output? How do you control AI accessing data which is perhaps paid or restricted, etc.? And I think these are some of our major challenges that we need to deal with. Now, Zenith, you mentioned Studiosity. I'm actually on the board of Studiosity, and they carried out a survey recently asking 100 educational leaders from around the world what were their views on AI. And they asked educational leaders, so these are university presidents across the globe, and the reason was because at the end of the day, university leaders are responsible for being the balance between academics, student learning, and of course, the validity of the degree that their institution offers, right? 91% of university leaders were not opposed to the idea of using AI. In fact, quite the opposite. What they wanted was the visibility. How do students use AI? And what is their learning journey using AI? In other words, they want to know, yes, they've used ChatGPT, that's fine. What's wrong? That's no different to what we did when we went to the library. We talked about Dr. Rajam, how you went to the library. We went to the library, we used sources. We have to have the journey, the learning journey, right? How do you use or how do you incorporate AI into your learning journey? So they actually wanted visibility. What is their material? What is the learning they got from using AI resources? What is their value addition? And that was 91% of university leaders. And 51% university leaders felt strongly that they would want to use AI into the university teaching if it could show that they would bring positive benefits, right, for learning. So generally what university leaders want when adopting AI, and this again across the world, is evidence of student learning. It's not the technology is the problem. The problem is how you incorporate it into the learning environment. And for me, that means we as educators have to change our role and how we teach and how we use content and how we create content. Also, university leaders felt AI should minimize educators or lecturers' burden, right? How can it be used? So a lot of administrative roles that we do. I mean, there are a lot of, it's not only we teach or we deliver content, it's not only we mark papers, but we have to do a lot of admin issues, right? How can AI be used to automate and negate those aspects? Of course, I talked about equitable access, and also the most important thing is providing support. We understand as educators, there's a normal distribution. You have some really good students, but you also have students at the end, at the tail. How do you support those students? How do you use AI to give them a lift and bring out their real potential? For me, that's a great outcome from AI. I'll just talk about a couple other things. I talked about the elephant in the room, academic integrity. It is a huge challenge. And I think for us, and when I still teach, again, because I'm quite interested in the whole idea of teaching, and I find teaching very, very interesting. I actually find that it's important that we change our assessment methods, right? And make assessment methods more problem-based, more practical, where we create lifelong skills rather than just simply rote learning. Also, our role of lecturers or teachers or educators should change how we use content, how we create content, how we deliver content. And also for me, our curriculum should change, right? Our curriculum cannot be static in a world where we are trying to create new skills. Now, before I finish, I'd just like to talk about some of the policies. You talked about the UAE. Yes, the UAE is the first country in the region to have an AI strategy, focusing on 11 sectors with 10 objectives, with a heavy focus on education. In fact, the UAE assumes or is hoping and planning for 22% of all graduates in AI specialisms, right? Which is very different to when I was teaching at Wollongong. It was very much business-oriented teaching, right? I think the most advanced thing we had was a PPT, right? And things have changed dramatically since then. It's not only the UAE, Saudi Arabia, with the Saudi Data and AI Authority and the national strategy for data and AI is part of the Vision 2030. In fact, Saudi Arabia envisages on adding 135 billion to its GDP. UAE envisages adding 25%. Saudi Arabia envisages adding 300,000 people employed specifically in AI sectors. It's not just UAE and Saudi Arabia. All the GCC countries have an AI strategy. That's the good part. The sad part is only 8 countries out of 22 Arab League members have an AI strategy. All the 6 GCC countries do, and Egypt is again outside the GCC has. Only 8. Only 1/3. When I look at the EU, it's the other way around. Most countries have an AI strategy. So the AI strategy is the basis for adopting the technology. So looking to the future, I agree with you. It's going to bring transformation. But what transformation do I believe is going to bring in education? I think it's going to be personalized teaching in a mass-produced manner, right? Teaching at your own or learning at your own pace in your own manner, but in a mass-produced way. Also, I think it will create more collaboration with students. Already we see students, I see my own daughter going on Reddit and talking to other students and trying to solve problems. And I think there will be more of this. And in the process, I actually think there'll be more immersive learning. And I think it's a good thing. Thank you.
I have to be honest, he was my teacher, so I was just, he was enthralled and listening. Huge thank you, Dr. Ashraf, for those really insightful words and inspiring words. I was just sitting there and thinking, oh my God, all these years later, and he still got my full attention. I mean, that says a lot about a professor, you know? But I do want to thank you for taking the time out. It was really like one of those moments for us to get back in touch. And what I would like to do at this point is to request Dr. Haley, and I don't know, Dr. Srijit has left. We missed him. Okay. Dr. Haley, Dr. Farhad, Dr. Nawar, and Chris, to please give a small token of thank you to Dr. Ashraf from all of us. Professor Nader, if I could have you. Philip, the board members, basically. Yes, that would have been easier. Rina, here. We do have, anybody has in the audience for Dr. Ashraf? We have a couple of minutes, so we can manage. Okay, we'll start with Tasneem and then we'll go to Chris. Leon, Mike. You can start a question.
Hi, thank you.
So I can
Can you just
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that. It was really insightful. And I also love how you were engaged. So if you're ever teaching in courses, please do. So I run a social so I do work with that, as you said, are the digital south. So it's really interesting to see how, as much as I felt I was being helpful by letting them, work on that skill, I realized that the future is digital and we need to get them on board as well. So I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts on how I could kind of bridge that while keeping their, their skill set, because that's all that they sort of know, but also helping them transform into a world where in the future they will be able to use tech.
Actually, that's a question I get asked quite often in my other role, which is the UN project for women. For me personally, I actually think if you want to help a particular society or a particular community, is how do you equip them to actually become self-sufficient, but to become more prosperous, so they can actually have the infrastructure to grow the community, which is also the life standards, the opportunities. But that takes time, right? And you can't be expected to do everything. So you have to find where can you make the greatest impact. And for me, it's taking women, and again, as I said, I do a lot of work with women who have traditional skills, who have handicraft skills, but take them and digitize their business. So now what you're doing is typically what you do with these kind of products. If they sell them in the local market, they'll get X. If you digitize their business, they get 3X and 4X. That then allows them to spend more money within their communities and within their families. And also allows them then to go and say, well, I'm actually doing quite well here. What next skill can I learn? And what next skill can I learn? McKinsey did a study a few years ago, and they found that when women start businesses, their communities benefit, which is not the same for men, right? So really, and that's why organizations such as UN actually spend a lot of time and effort helping women-owned businesses, because they actually grow and they actually help their communities. So my advice would be initially to digitize their business, to link them to global value chains and help them scale up their business, right? Because again, these are not professional entrepreneurs. They're people who are passionate about their skill rather than passionate about the business side of it.
Yes, yes.
Actually, that's a question more of a reflection. What I found really interesting was the point you were making about skill development.
Yes.
Because I think what struck me was we have an additional layer which is somewhere between cultural, somewhere between pedagogical and ideological. So we're talking about a type of technology to improve our learning capacity against the traditional view. And yet there is a divide between the way we learn and the way we teach in many countries. So the rote learning compared to, say, the 21st century skills. So when we're talking about a digital divide, that's something that's already been superimposed on an intellectual divide and the way that education and learning is seen in many different countries around the world. So my concern with tech, more broadly than AI, is we're trying to use it to answer a problem that we haven't even understood in the first place. Or we're trying to impose a solution that doesn't actually make sense for the problem we have at hand. And then we criticize it for not solving the thing that we don't understand, that we're not actually trying to address it in the first place. So the use of AI is being the latest conversation in, let's stick this on top, and when it doesn't work, it's failed. On top of an educational system where we have a massive divide between what some people in the world consider to be 21st century skills and the value of them, which is in itself a politicized construct, and the traditional rote learning. So I found it very interesting, just reflecting on what you were saying, that we are, in some cases, trying to solve the wrong problem with the wrong thing. And we're not getting very far, I think.
I do agree with you. I mean, the question for me is actually, I mean, when we look at the regional AI strategies, I'm talking about the GCC, they all emphasize on skill learning. because really there is a skill that you need. I mean, to use AI and to apply it effectively, there is a skill, right? It's not just picking up a book. Again, even if you want to use ChatGPT, you have to use certain type of language to get the answers. So I think the emphasis of all the GCC countries, and again in the UAE, if you look at an AI strategy, is on learning the appropriate skills so that you can become competent at using the technology to maximize the return on it, right? So I think when I look at the challenges, for me, the challenges, I mean, less so with academic integrity, because I believe that's the role of the educator now to change the way they deliver material and the way that they actually assess the student learning, right? It's more about creating accessibility and giving opportunities to everybody. For me, that's a greater challenge, right? And that's what I think AI should be about. How do you use AI not just to help 2/3 of the world's population, but to help 100% of the world's population? And for me, AI is something even better than that. It's how economies can actually jump from the traditional model of doing work or the way they actually produce goods to actually becoming equal and at par with more developed nations, right? For me, technology is a springboard to economic development, prosperity, and life opportunities. Right? That's okay. And for me, that's a problem. Okay. No. Okay. And
Right.
that's because I think as educators, we'd like to blame students when really we are at fault.
Or
Right?
tech in this case.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we're at fault. I think we should make the way that we use, I mean, ChatGPT or any of these softwares, how do we use them? We should use them more effectively to create a more engaged learning environment.
Yeah.
Because you can't stop the technology. And I think Turnitin has just shown that you can have this policing tool, right? But there's so many different ways around it. And as I was talking to Maladina just before the session, if you don't create a passion for learning,
Yeah.
if you don't create a passion for knowledge, it doesn't matter how much you police the system. There will be ghostwriters. We know the ghostwriters have existed for hundreds of years.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So there'll always be ghostwriters, and people will always pay ghostwriters. There will always be degree mills and universities that give you degrees for nothing,
Yeah.
right? That will always exist. I think for us as educators, we have to create lifelong learning skills, and we have to create a passion for the subject.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now we are out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashraf. Over to you, Baya. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashraf, for your enlightening address and this important conversation. Next, we will move on to our panel discussion, role of policies in governing generative AI and tech innovations from the workplace to academia. This discussion prompts us to explore how policies can guide the ethical and effective use of generative AI, balancing innovation with accountability from industry to classrooms. We are privileged to have an exceptional lineup of panelists: Professor Farhad from the University of Wollongong in Dubai, Dr. Stephen Williamson from the University of Wollongong in Dubai, Professor Melodana Stephens from Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government, Dr. Zainab Khan, University of Wollongong in Dubai, Dihan Hamdani representing the center. The panel will be expertly moderated by Professor Chris Hill from the British University in Dubai. And let's give them a warm round of applause as they take the stage.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Wonderful. Well, I'll just stand up for the beginning bit and then I'll sit down. We don't have a tremendous amount of time and I have a lot of questions. A few things that struck me before we begin. Most people use AI to make their life easier, to generate prompts, to give them questions. I have Zenith. for that. So I'm not quite sure why AI exists in my life because Zenith does all of that anyway. We've tried to put together a conversation that will take us through these conversations through different stages of the policy development. Each of our panelists will be posed a question and we'll have sort of 4 to 5 minutes to answer, and then we'll see where we are. This conversation will then bleed into the round table so we can carry those conversations on a sort of a smaller level. And the second thing that struck me was both Akash and Ashraf speaking about the problem with AI is people say things that they don't really understand, and it sounds like they know what they're talking about, and it sounds like they're important until they're challenged. And I'm sitting in the corner going, I think that's academics. So my entire world confidence view is sort of slowly being eroded bit by bit. So therefore, we will turn to people more knowledgeable than myself. And I will therefore show up Omaima, who promised that I would expertly chair this session. So what I'll do is if I turn to each of you in turn and I'll pose a question, and then you either have a microphone or we have a hand microphone that we can use. We're sort of dispensing with long introductions so that we can get to conversation. So Professor Fahad, if we could begin with you, please, sir. I'm interested sort of to begin with the idea about technology and the current state. So we're going to sort of launch the conversation. And maybe sort of from a broad perspective, how do you think academic institutions should or could even balance the rapid pace of AI advancements with, and here we have the quote, slower process of policy creation and implementation? So how do we as institutions balance two very different speeds within this conversation?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Chris, for this. And is this better? Yeah. Yes. All right. So, see, the thing about AI is that it's transforming power, and it's often actually underestimated. So whenever, and that's the difference between the AI and most other technologies. What is the goal of the universities? One of the goals that universities have set for themselves is training the next generation of workers for industry. They're training people to be the new employees and run the workplace, right? So let's look at the past and what happened in the past. For example, when first computers were introduced in 1960s and 1970s to workplace, they made a major change and we needed a new kind of workforce. It took some time for the universities to pick up this, to understand this new dynamics and start training people for this new environment of work. Then it was 1980s and 1990s and personal computer came, and there was a need for new type of employees and new type of skills and things like that. And the whole dynamics in workplace and the definition of work actually changed. Now we are looking at AI, and since this generative AI came in, we see that everything in workplaces started to change. Now the definition of the work is going to change, and by itself it will require new type of employees. And in universities, we have this dilemma that, for example, now there are lots of AI tools that write programs, for example. I use them a lot myself, and so I can't ban my students from using them. So there are lots of AI programs there that they actually generate programs, and they're quite good programs. So what is the role of the programmers nowadays or in future, right? So what are we teaching in university as programming subject? What skills they should have to be able to work in future in industry where the programs are written by the computers themselves, right? So this is changing. We have to change and adapt to what the changes in workplace. So we are living in a special time, in a very exciting time, but also very transitional period of time. We are just like today, the personal computers have been introduced to workplace. We don't know what really work looks like in near future because we don't know how AI is going to change it. In many other technologies, it was really predictable. You could see how computers or personal computers, they're going to affect the workplace and how the work is going to change. But with AI, it's really hard to see that because the pace of AI is too fast. And whatever you think is going to happen in like 10 years is happening in 2 years. So you can't really predict what the work is going to look like. So in this transitional period, we have to prepare for just this transitional period. And now we are in this dilemma. What can AI do in universities? As lecturers, we can actually get AI to generate course plans for us, write case studies, prepare assignments, and even mark assignments for us. And what students can do, they can take our assignments and have generative AI to answer all these questions and write programs. And then we get that assignments and we give it to AI to mark it. So we are in a period of time that we actually, in a transitional period of time, we really don't know what's going to happen and how we have to change. So I can't really think of policies that would last for a long time, like the policies that we have. For example, advanced standing policy in last 25 years in many universities I've worked with is the same. It hasn't changed. But policies for teaching and learning, ethics and integrity, we really don't know. We can't actually come up with a policy that sticks for the next 20 years. It's a transitional time. We just have to come up with policies that works for today. And we can just take us through this transition until we settle down on what needs to be done. Because the work is changing, we have to actually start thinking about how we can develop new technologies, new skills, new courses that actually deliver these skills for the society and the workplace. Then we know how to have what kind of policies we need. So the only thing that is certain, what we are doing now is not working. We have to do something else. But that something else means many different things to many different fields and in many different tasks that are there. So that's the problem with the transitional period. There's no fixed target. So everybody has to come up with something to just pass by this transition. And there would be a fixed time. That's how AI works. There's always a time that it goes up, then it stabilizes, it stays for a few years, and then goes up again. So there would be time of stability, but next few years, that's not going to happen. We are in just beginning of this wave getting current.
So we have the reality that universities and academic institutions are in a period of flux, and there's nothing we love more than that as a university. We have to respond to things. There's nothing we love more than having to respond to things. Yes. We can't look backwards and we have to look forwards. No, we don't like that very much either. We can just let go and surrender. Yes. What's very interesting, I think, is actually if we can turn to Professor Melina, because I think, so your point there about how we craft something that is relevant in the moment. I wonder if I could turn to you with thinking about the connection between, and even back to our keynote about skills. So thinking about how universities, whether it's actually craft policies or whether it's craft responses, perhaps, in the moment that are related to the skill development needed for industry or the way in which AI expectations. So we've heard today about the capability of somebody to use AI. What can or should universities be doing in this sort of space? If it's not about thinking about long-term policy, what should we be thinking about in the immediate? An easy kind of question to...
So let me start first with skills. I've been tracking skills and the WEF reports and many other reports on what are future skills. I don't think anyone agrees on what our future skills, so they become obsolete within a year. So how do we prepare for universities if we don't know what our future skills, especially if you're thinking of kids coming into school, right? So that's one challenge that we have. And I think what AI will do is introduce unpredictability. So we need resilience in our children. We need them to love learning, because if they don't love learning, they're never going to find the answers. And we need them to be entrepreneurial. That means they will find the skills required for the future, and that will keep changing. And on all three counts, I think this is something we don't do very well in universities. Having an entrepreneurship course does not mean that they are entrepreneurial.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Because I think it's too late to address that at universities. Risk-taking starts in schools. We beat risk-taking out of children. Not literally, you're not allowed to beat kids, but you kind of kill their creativity and you don't allow them to ask why. On the other hand, we look at things, and I want to just give one example. So you probably were familiar with the CrowdStrike episode. It took down 85 million computers, right? Probably the person who did that wrote a program using AI, but they were also inexperienced, so they did not have knowledge or skill sets. And so they deployed it at a global level, which you would never do if you were experienced. You just never would do that. And it took down 85 million computers, and airline industries, hospitals. Who survived during that very short period were people who had paper-based. Right? I'm sorry to say that. So the thing is, AI is great, but we need a backup of a backup, and the old skills are just as important. And I think we don't debate what are the old skills we need to keep. I think children should go to libraries and find books, because information is not easy to find. Having it at your fingertips does not mean it's correct. But if we take away that skill of finding information and looking for it or searching, then that's a skill that they've lost. I can't remember even my own phone number now. Sadly, when I was 16, I could remember quite a few.
Yeah, no, of course.
Right? People ask me my number and I have to say, hold on 1 minute, and call myself as an example. Do we need these? So I'll give you another example before I end, but I was living in the Far East for quite some time, and recently I was lucky to go and visit, and I saw people using the abacus. Now, that's an outdated tool which I think belongs in the museums. And I thought, why are they using the abacus? Because if technology fails, guess who's going to be doing well? It's not us, because we couldn't count. And I want to give you one last thing. When I was in Germany, some hacker took down the entire train systems. One of the things the Germans do is they do vocational schools. Everyone knows how to use the slide rule. There was no train that had an accident because they knew how to go back to the old tech. So I think technology is good, but like we are in a flux, we should not throw out the baby with the bathwater right now.
So, yes, no, absolutely. I was just thinking that if we edit your response down, we've got beating children, killing children, and throwing out babies. There's a perception which is about, without absent context.
Now, if you use ChatGPT,
What are you going to get? Yes, exactly. And to understand the context, which I mean, segues perfectly if we turn to Zenith, which is to think more practically about within the classroom. So obviously a lot of the point of today is about AI in my classroom. We've heard about tech being innovative. We've heard about it being groundbreaking. We've heard about it, creating things that we can't even imagine. How do we adapt that, and how do we adapt ourselves within the classroom to both harness the innovation and the creativity potential of it without losing the human creativity or even the capacity to go from A to B to C and to fail before you get to the end, which is something, it's such an important part of learning and is effectively being, if not removed, certainly eroded by the use of tech.
So I will touch back on the previous speakers. I think Dr. Ashraf said it, you said it, Melodina said it, even Dr. Kiki touched upon it. I think what we forget is, why am I in a classroom? We get so caught up in our jobs that, oh, I have 20 lessons to finish in 8 weeks and I need to finish it. Irrespective of how I'm doing it, what I'm doing in class, I need to finish my 8 lessons. And I think a lot of this has to do with the admin workload that I think, again, we talked about earlier. we need to go back to assessing why we are in the classroom. And then to ask the question, what am I really assessing when I'm setting an assessment? There is no silver magic bullet. I will have a secure proof assessment that a student can never cheat. There is no such thing, right? The only way we can get around that is if we actually develop a culture of integrity in our classrooms from the get-go. And I think we really saw this happen during COVID, because suddenly we didn't have eye contact with students because, let's face it, nobody switched on their webcams. Right? They only wanted to chat, so nobody was speaking. So we could not have that personal contact with our students anymore. Then how do I ensure that they actually believe me, they are going to be passionate about my learning, or the subject that I'm talking about, going back to that culture of integrity. And we saw this over and over again. Researchers, academics said those who had already established this with their classrooms, they knew how to do it. When they were online and they didn't see the students, they weren't vastly worried that their students were going to be too busy cheating, because the student was connected to the teacher, even on an online platform, because they'd managed to somehow cultivate a culture of integrity. So you want to focus more and more on how do I get my student to be passionate about the learning, something we've already touched upon. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that they can trust that we have their best interest at heart. And to do that, I need to first reassess myself. What am I really doing when I stand in a classroom? I think I want to make it short and I leave it at that.
Yeah. And it comes down to a fundamental question about the purpose of learning, the purpose of education, and then the structure that builds up alongside and around that. I think I might actually just switch, because rather than going macro, if we stick within the classroom. So, and if I could turn to you, because we, the role of the teacher, right? What it is to be a teacher, what it is to actually develop learning, what it is to actually encourage passion and engagement. From a student's perspective, and obviously, again, we're trying to ask you to, same as we talk for all teachers, you're now representing all students everywhere, which is completely adequate. To what extent do you think that students are prepared to use GenAI responsibly? Because there's one question about, are you capable of using it? Which is a question should be asked to more teachers than is. But to what extent, and I'm really interested in whether the students' understanding of what responsibly and ethically is would match with what a teacher's understanding. And I'm not asking you to sort of guess, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have.
I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that students and using GenAI go hand in hand very well, right? They don't need professors to tell them, oh, this is how you actually do it. This is a new technology that you should try. They don't need that help. I have friends who are indecisive, so they go on to ChatGPT and ask them, what should I have for lunch? Do you think I should have Lebanese, or do you think I should have Chinese food? Which, I'm a part of the generation, so I should support them, but even I sometimes I'm like, what is going on, right? So now there's literally AI for things like providing you with emotional support. If you don't have someone in your corner when you're going through a tough time in life, you have AI for that too, right? But the tricky part is, how are we using this AI responsibly, right? There's so many privacy issues, but I'll keep it to the point. When we talk about what you exactly asked me, if you asked me this question at the beginning of the year, I think I'd say no. Without a doubt, I don't think we're adequately prepared to face this world of GenAI and reuse it responsibly. But now, after this year of so many innovations that we've been talking about, we've had so many innovations. I think students are actually starting to care about how their GenAI is being used and if they're disclosing it or not. I've worked with peers throughout this year and I've collaborated with them on different projects, and I can see them actually care. Whereas if you saw them last year, they probably would not care at all. So I think the fact that professors or managers at workplaces have gotten students to the point where they actually care about whether their assignment is being written up by AI or whether they are using it just to find a structure or whether they're copy pasting everything they find on ChatGPT is very important. I mean, even in terms of professors, I feel like my professors, I mean, I'm in the field of finance, so you wouldn't really expect a professor to come to you and be like, yes, use ChatGPT, go ahead. But I've had some very supportive professors who really let me, use it as a starting point, as a point of creativity, as a point of, okay, you can use this to structure your answer, but don't, of course, copy paste, use it with caution. And I think that narrative of professors starting and saying, okay, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you're disclosing everything, as long as you're using it with caution, that is the biggest thing students need to get prepared, right? Because we've already won half the battle if academics have gotten students to care about the fact that they're using AI. And then if you're telling them that, hey, let's build this genuine trust. You use AI, you disclose it, and there is nothing wrong with it as long as you're disclosing it. So if you're building that genuine trust with your students, I think that's more than enough, combined with them caring about what they're doing, being mindful of their actions. I think that is more than enough for students to really be prepared and take this with them in the professional world as well.
Okay, well, that's a very positive look. And it does sort of counter a little bit of, yeah, absolutely. And it does counter one of the initial points, which is ultimately, and I've had this conversation with my students, I can have AI write my 10 weeks of teaching. I can have AI write my module handout. I can have AI write my assignments. Students can use AI to write their assignments, and I can use AI to grade their assignments. So within the first 5 minutes of class, we're done. They still pay their fees, I still get a salary, and everybody has 10 weeks holiday, but nobody's learnt anything. And I very much like your point about if we can ensure that students understand why they're using it and the value of the longer term goals, because yes, it might be more efficient to support learning, but if it replaces learning, you've gained nothing in the long term. Perhaps then if we try to bring it back, which is a terrible thing to ask you to try and to resolve the conversation, but in terms of sort of governance within a university, we're sort of thinking about frameworks that involving sort of the use of GenAI with ethical standards and academic integrity. So we've heard about policies, we've heard about sort of institutional approach, we've heard about teacher and student. What sort of frameworks can universities try to develop that? We use the word police a lot, and particularly in our context here, we use the word police, punish, regulate a lot. But if we take the positive spin of some of the conversations about the forward thinking, the education, the development, what are the sort of frameworks or ideas that universities might be able to consider putting in place?
Okay, so that's quite a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible question, and I've just dropped the mic and I'm going to walk off. But yes,
let's see how it goes. Okay, we know that GenAI is a tool that will be used in the workplace. This is something that we therefore need to develop skills with students. But I think one of the things that was mentioned earlier that is important is purpose. So what are we doing? How are we using it? What are we trying to achieve? And then that governs how we can integrate GenAI in a way that is going to achieve those goals, is going to add to learning. So if I give an example, I have a coursework exercise in one of my final year subjects, which is asking students to produce a technical essay. I've asked them to do it with support of as many AI tools they wish to use, but they then have to explain in an appendix each AI tool, how they used it, how it helped them, or how it hindered them. Then they do a presentation on that to the group, like how it was used. So it's about training in the use of those tools and trying to work out where they are actually useful or where they are problematic in an environment where I can ask questions and provide feedback as part of those presentations. So that's an example of how I've done it. In terms of a policy or framework or guideline, it's difficult because it's not really something where you can be prohibitive, or you can say everyone do this. At the institutional level, you can say there are things where we've seen some advantages, and this is something that we have released. We've released a guideline document within the university in terms of research and how GenAI can be used in research and how it can support research, but also the areas where it causes problems in terms of purpose. So if you are helping to refine a research question, that's okay. If you are asking it to produce your research question for you, that's probably not okay. There's a sign. Sorry, I didn't know there was secret.
That's for me. That's not for you. No.
I need to pass back to you way before that.
You won't get in trouble. I'll get in trouble. So don't you have to worry about. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So, for example, if you are developing a methodology, then AI can help you to develop that methodology. But if you are producing the methodology and following it just as you are told, then there's no creativity that goes into that. That's not research as such. But if you are using it to support the quality of what you produce and you're putting your creativity into it, you are building something better by using it, then it does add value. If it replaces your results with AI, that's no good. But if you are supporting possible interpretations of your results, not interpreting your results, using it as brainstorming, that is valid, that helps. But if it's doing it for you, that doesn't really help. So it's purpose that is important, and purpose doesn't really go well in policy. In guidelines, however, with examples and that we have been able to do.
No, I think that actually does summarize it very nicely. I think just to perhaps try to bring it to a close, I heard an excellent analogy the other day by Stephen Fry, who's an English writer, comedian, director, etc. And he compares AI to a Greek myth of Prometheus. So the gods create man. Man is perfect. We're using the word man because that's anthropos in Greek, but let's say humans to make it a little bit better. And it's perfect because it's controllable and the gods can just watch and play around. And then Prometheus steals fire from the gods and gives it to man. And fire is AI. And the gods can't control AI anymore. But fire cooks your food, and fire keeps you warm, and fire has purpose, and fire has value. And if you use it responsibly, you don't get burnt. And your common sense allows you to use it to make your life better rather than going, I wonder what happens if I just put my hand in the middle. And so we've created this. We've let it out of the box. Fire now exists, and it has the potential to burn the world down. And it has the potential, when used responsibly and with common sense, to make the world better. So if we have to use AI to pick a food, we now have a choice of raw or cooked, right? So we can't get away from it. We ultimately can't control it, but we can manage our own reaction and interaction with it. Yeah, okay. So yeah, and thank you all to, that might have been just for the conversation, but thank you please to all the panelists for insights and conversation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much to our panelists for that engaging discussion. Good evening, everyone. My name is Minna. I am a final year student majoring in computer science at University of Wollongong in Dubai. Now it's time for the RISE Global Challenges results and Green Paper launch. It's a significant milestone in addressing global challenges and fostering actionable solutions. Here to present this momentous launch, we have Ms. Vienna, Mulani and Professor Nader Khair and Dr. Zinat Khan. Please join me in welcoming them.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Where can I put this? Because I've got to read. There is a speech actually to read. But before I do that, it's very, very pleasant, very nice, always to be here. I think I'm become a regular. And thanks for Dr. Z for just stumbling sometime. And so it's less than a year, right? Yeah, and we became a lot of things. I mean, that when we met, that resulted in a memorandum of understanding between our two institutions. And since then, we had a lot of work together, in academic integrity and others. So I'm really appreciative of this opportunity, and she introduced me to amazing people. So I'm really happy to be here. What has happened right today, all these speakers and others, has plenty of really amazing and interesting things. And I had a lot of things to say, but that was the time. But I just wanted to say, as an academic and as an educator, when AI came, it took us by surprise. We were not ready for it. We are not yet ready for it. And I think the first victim of it is something called to take home assignments with deadlines. And that happened in one of my master courses. So I still gave them an assignment with a deadline, but I had to follow it with an interview, until something happens, until we learn what to expect from it and so on. So it's a very, very rich subject. And what's good about coming here every time is the relevance of what we do here, and the impact that we expect to happen, and the role and the responsibility, that because it's a responsibility to being here and going back and diffuse what we have into our people who listen to us and whom we are responsible about. So I think this is very important. I would like to read some just to launch this. So I'd like to first to, of course, welcome everyone. It's a privilege that I'm in this occasion, and AI now, as everybody said, is just not a buzzword anymore, but a transformative force, specifically in education, in other aspects, in healthcare, for example, my area, it's taking over. So in education, the potential is immense, from personalizing learning experiences, enhancing academic integrity, to redefining professional skills for the future. So the RISE Global project investigates the opportunities and challenges posed by generative AI across sectors such as healthcare, education, business, and technology. And it aims to develop strategies for ethical AI adaptation, skill enhancement, and sustainable workforce transformation through global collaboration. The project we're talking about emphasized context-specific solutions to create inclusive, innovative, and future-ready work environments. That brings me back to the importance of curriculum changes, so as we can have people who can fit in what's going on now here, there. So this project received funds, about 18,000 dirhams, to study the technology and research cluster objectives shown on the slide. The project was conducted in 2 phases. While the regional team consisted of 17 members, we had a smaller core team that worked on this cluster work from January to now. Now, these details are available in the screen here in front of you. Incidentally, and just to illustrate the significance of what we're doing here and the urgency of AI and its implications, Ajman University, where I come from, is organizing an 8 to 5 retreat tomorrow, which I have to attend Friday and Saturday. Very long. On what? And guess what are the topics for the first session there? Impact of global trends on teaching and learning, AI and technological advancement, National Strategy of Higher Education 2030, the United Arab Emirates National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence. So we are so relevant. So it is everywhere. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Good evening, everyone. So Zenith's put me in charge of reading out a lot of numbers. And
With the analysis.
I've been awake since 5:30, and I know the school teachers can feel my pain. But let's get through this, okay? So we have the results of a survey conducted with 27 respondents from the tech industry regarding ethical implications of using generative AI. On the left, you can see the primary industry distribution. 31% are from the technology sector, followed by 19% each from education and IT-related fields, with 12% categorized as other. On the right, the company size distribution is shown with 41% representing large companies, 37% medium, and 11% each for small or unspecified sizes. This highlights a diverse representation across industries and organizational scales. The table summarizes key ethical challenges identified by 27 tech industry respondents regarding generative AI use, including insufficient ethics training with a mean of 2.94 and misalignment of educational initiatives, mean of 2.71. The findings highlight a need for enhanced ethics education and better alignment between industry needs and institutional programs. From the students' perspective, the results from 272 respondents on their perception and use of ChatGPT, the male to female ratio shows 63% male and 37% female participation. Most respondents are from Dubai, 60%, and university level education, 76%, indicating a majority representation from higher education in an urban setting. The table highlights student perceptions of ChatGPT use, with teachers showing moderate openness, mean of 2.72, but significant concerns about misconduct. Students feel university's efforts to raise awareness and address concerns are insufficient, with guidelines often perceived as unclear or inconsistent, which is what we heard from the panelists as well. Now, moving on to the input from 91 universities, open access program data across UK, UAE, and USA on university programs addressing the ethical use of AI. The left chart shows that 64% of programs integrate responsible AI into technical courses, while 35% focus on ethics in AI. The right chart highlights that most offerings are at the postgraduate level, 45%, closely followed by undergraduate programs, with limited professional training or doctoral options. From 91 respondents on university programs addressing ethics in AI, showing 38 programs offering explicit ethics courses and 68 integrating responsible AI into technical curricula. A significant gap exists in interdisciplinary courses, with regional representation concentrated in the UK, USA, and UAE, emphasizing the early stages of ethics in AI education. Thank you.
Now I have the job of bringing all of this together, and that's disappeared, okay, and saying why we are talking about this. So when we started this project last year, we were supposed to only look at industry. And we did. We had the survey results, as you saw, and people are not happy in the industry. when it comes to AI ethics. The number one concern was the students we are getting, they're just not trained enough in responsible AI use in workplaces, which is, of course, what we're expecting, right? So then we were like, so how do we go backwards and start looking at how can we fill this gap? So we decided to first talk to the students. Students, as you saw, said, hey, our teachers think we are cheating, they're not prepared, and the policy is not clear. I said, great. So now we have two areas that we can focus on, policies and teachers. But when we said teachers, we said, let's take a step even backward. Let's not just look at university students, let's start looking at K-12, because that's where ethics actually starts. And we saw that from a number of speakers already today. So that's where the whole incubator, we launched something called a teacher incubator program. We had a massive response where we wanted to do hands-on training, talking to teachers about AI and responsible AI, and them getting them to come up with a proposal on how to use AI in their classrooms. And on the other side, with the policies, we started discussion on how are we going to be looking at policies? What is this policy going to look like? What are the kind of questions to ask? Dr. Stephen, at this, I'm going to highlight you a little bit here. He was the one who said, you need to write a green paper on this. Because policy, if you're discussing policy, you need to start writing policy papers. Not my forte, not my area, never done it. So thank you so much, Stephen, for getting us on this path. And that's how this whole Global Challenges project kind of brought all of this together. So as I mentioned, okay, yeah. So we did the AI in my classroom incubator. We started this in September. Instant amazing response from the partners. Some of them are here today. I know Studiosity couldn't make it, but I know Power School is here. Dr. Fadi is here. Thank you, Dr. Fadi. And of course, Eugene's here. I don't think Ivan is here from Worlds. No, but we touched base with them and they said, yes, we are here to support you and support the teachers. We had 50 teachers from 24 schools coming in for a 2-day workshop. Then we had 9 speakers who did bite-sized trainings for these teachers, workshops, brainstorming. We had mentors and judges. Some of the judges are here today. I can see Dr. Stephen, I can see Dr. Estelle, Dr. Iman is here as well. So thank you so much. Again, this is what they did. They worked together with the teachers to get them to think about how you can bring AI into your classrooms responsibly. The other thing was the green paper, as we mentioned. We had about 7 authors and about that many expert discussants got involved in looking at and proposing questions to ask if we want to really develop a holistic policy on GenAI use in UAE. So at this stage,
So now we're going to invite the authors of the green paper to help us with the launch of the green paper, inviting Mr. Nawar Al-Hakim and Ms. Gloria, please, Head of Freshman Studies at UWD to do the honors.
Authors, Stephen, Chris, Fahad, Nadir, Sivapriya, Irina is not here. And I know we have some of the discussants in the room as well. Patrick's not here. Professor Iman is here. Eugene is here. Melodina, of course, is here. Who else? Heba is not here. Katya. Dr. Ashraf is in a meeting. Stewart. Instead of Stewart, I think, Fadi, we will have you join us, representing Power School. And I know Heba's not here, but Estelle, please come forward because she was from Sharjah. Veena, Namita. Thank you.
I think she said you, right?
Sir,
Oh, no.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Again?
Yes.
And count to three.
1, 2, 3. So, you want to say something about the paper? No, she says no. Okay. So the whole idea about the green paper and the reason we are launching it because we would like to move into the next segment, which is the roundtable, where we want you to discuss a lot more about generative AI and what you've heard today. What are the things, what are the concerns that you've heard that you think are really crucial? Look at the questions that we've raised in this paper. What are the kind of solutions that you think that can come from it? Eventually, we are hoping to take this back and write a white paper on policy and submit it to the ministries. That's the whole purpose. So congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much. This is the first green paper on GenAI, not just here, globally. So we're quite happy about that. Thank you. Okay, over to, where are my MCs? Yes. Okay, this is done. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. We move back. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Sahil Khan. I'm an active committee member and the Center of Academic Integrity, and I'm a year 8 student at Aldi Upper High School. Next, we have the roundtable discussion. This session invites our attendees to share their perspectives, exchange ideas, and explore collaborative solutions to the challenges and opportunities you will find in the green paper. Please scan the QR code on the slide. We encourage everyone to actively participate and make this session vibrant and enriching. We'll be taking notes of the discussion points for academic and research purposes. Sessions will be chaired by Dr. Stephen, Professor Chris, Professor Fahad, Professor Meladina, Professor Nader, Professor Shivapriya, Professor Iman, and Dr. Haba. Before we go, we would like to invite Dr. George, our program leader for computer science at UOWD, to give a short demo on how AI and GenAI can be used in workspaces. This will be used to help visualize opportunities and policies to ensure safe use. Thank you.
Actually, I don't think I need the speaker microphone, right? Yeah, no, I hate the. I think you can all hear me at the back, right? My voice is loud enough. So, okay. So I was about actually to show a small demo that we have prepared, where the system used something called RPA, robotic process automation. It's an old technology, paired with generative AI for the purpose of logging into Moodle, is the learning environment that we're using here. Go to the exams of the students, take the exams, mark the exams, and give back Excel sheet with all the grades, and actually live demo. However, after the panel, I think it's not a good idea because you actually mention it as an example, right? So yeah, however, this is not the only thing. I mean, we have to understand why we are here. And I really like what Zina said. It's amazing. We're not here just to fill Excel sheets. We are not here just to even do just the grading, right? We're not here to go and check, do moderation of exams or all these admin tasks that we are doing. And we are lucky in Wollongong, actually, we have less admin tasks than other universities. I mean, the bureaucracy and the admin tasks that we have in other universities take more time than actually the time we spend in the classrooms, right? That's it's in many cases the same. I don't want to mention the names of some institutions, but they take a tremendous amount of time, and we are not so good for that. Usually, people who are good in teaching and engaging in teaching are very bad in doing these tasks, right? So, how about if we actually use AI to do these tasks for us. And that's what we start doing here with our AI initiatives within our school. Actually, Dr. Navad, actually, that killed the name, right? So yeah, it all started from a meeting that we had during the alumni dinner. And I was like, we said, okay, we have these problems and we're looking for some people to employ. They will take about 3 months. Now it was about, yeah, okay, let's do it in a weekend. Let us write the software, right, with AI. Because right now, not to actually write the software, okay, that's not possible. That's fake news, to be clear, okay? Yes, AI can produce code, okay, but not software. Okay, there is a huge difference. So yes, it can help me to produce a software, but you cannot use it to produce software. That's why Microsoft call it Copilot, not pilot. I'm the pilot. Okay, yeah, I mean it's terribly writing software. I mean, don't do that at home. Same with the lawyers. I mean, I thought I can get away with actually I was helping my brother with some legal things with the company. We thought we could get away with ChatGPT, you know, but until it starts hallucinating and creating laws that actually doesn't exist. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the future and I wish we were there. Okay, I wish AI was as powerful as people think it is, but we are not. Okay, we are not. We need another at least 10 years to actually make it to replace us. And AI will never replace us because it's not designed to replace us. Okay, AGI that has agency. Okay, that's another thing. But currently, these chatbots cannot replace us. Okay, these chatbots are there to help us do our job faster. Yes, instead of this, what I'm saying to the students, instead of employing 10 programmers, they will employ 2. And they expect you to use these tools to do your job faster. Okay, but they will not replace us. Okay, and again, I will go back to Microsoft. Microsoft, they call it Copilot, right? They don't call it pilot. So, and I mean, we are much better than a chatbot at the end of the day. Okay, so let's see now what we actually did here. So we started with Professor Navad's ideas for automations and the needs that we did complete, and we had some tremendous results. And then we took it within the school. Okay, now we're in the process of automating academic advising. Of course, we automated moderation, exam moderation. What else we automated? We did automation. We did moderation is very important, very, very important. Okay, because right now every time we don't just use it alone. We use it within an agent. So we have an agent that actually does the task. So it will go do the moderation for us. Prepare the full moderation. We moderate exam papers. We moderate, so we have a human creating some papers. We have the AI moderating some papers. And now we want to use for academic advising to check regarding the courses, if they are okay or not. Actually, I did an experiment, and that's another interesting thing. We have to approve some special cases. They come, for example, they say, okay, I want to take this course instead of that course. And we have to manually check the prerequisites, check if they're supposed to take it or not. Okay. My idea, say, hey, let's use AI. Okay. We assume that humans know what they're doing. So what I can do, I have access to an Excel sheet with the previous decisions. I'm just going to take that Excel sheet, okay, train my system using past data done by humans, which they know what they're doing, right? And then it will replace. The AI then can actually do my job, right? Now, what I actually show is that humans don't know what they're doing. And I had the same case, okay, approved. It happened with me, myself, actually. There were other cases, but I'm just going to talk about myself. The student actually applied for a consideration, special consideration. I rejected the case. The same student applied again the next day, I approved it. And then I was like, okay, I guess that was an outlier. We can just skip it, right? But then I realized that most of my data was an outlier. So we cannot even rely on humans for this. Okay, we cannot rely on humans for this. What we did then, and what actually we want to do, actually Dr. Abdullah is working on that with Professor Pahar, we now want to use GenAI to go through our policies and try to apply policies on this data, which will give us the next level of automation. So we want the AI to be able to understand the policies and create rules. And then we use these rules, the actual policies, to make decisions instead of relying on what humans usually do. Now, we will find out, I'm sure, actually, I expect this, that we are missing policies. There will be a lot of things that we don't have policies for, which is great. Because then, if I know that I don't have a policies for this case, this case, this case, this case, we can bring it to the council meeting, we can decide, and we can create policies. So now, I believe that if we have this discussion again within a year from now, and after we actually have achieved a high degree of automation, it's going to help us a lot. I mean, I will be able to share more data from the actual development. Now, this allows us a lot of free time, okay, which we can actually invest back to the classrooms where we belong. And not just for the teachers, we can use more time on the classrooms, we can spend more time for research, we can spend more time for helping the society. Because that's our actual job, right? Is to teach students to do scientific research, right? So, time up for me, but no time up for you. Questions? Thank you.
Back with your group, but the chairs who are going to be taking. They will initiate the discussion with you guys to continue with the questions that are there in the green paper. This is the next segment, the roundtable discussion. So you get to be a part of this discussion. So please turn your chairs around.
I picked it. What are you saying? You cannot escape. They have the participant, they have the pages behind them. Let me see.
You guys have a right for you guys.
Yeah.
But when you actually see something like I'm trying to like I don't read it. It's like, oh, no, it's nice. But yeah, it's nice. That's the big yes, I'm working on later here. Let's see if we can. That's what you're saying. And the rich for me, this Saturday.
Technology cannot be moved from the television for very time. That's all my friends. I'm sure I can find that there's been 20 years in culture. That's why I really like this. That's it. So I think I was finding I understand where I'm interested about the here. I need to which But then again,
Yeah, I'm sure it's very. Another person. So, yeah. Like Harvard, we're talking Harvard, why didn't he send I was going so what about
she wants to carry these every
why find it?
She cannot
Go on the market.
actually
Great, like, which, my impression. Say that the child is not expert like me, but not. Our that works. Why graded graded our they're not going to unlock. I want to go slide. Already find it wrong. They have and I understand. Yeah, it's the thing you put on the algorithm. I was like, the problem was right. Instead of that, just put it just dedicated by the products. It was something where like 5 people. Just like the whole extra dates. Yeah, before I know that just that's Who's treated?
This is so like no measures,
I agree.
Exactly. And based on that, But for example, several questions that are written
It's that
volume passion and it's not the AI and yeah, that's why I understand. I answered the question so narrow. I didn't. Yeah. Otherwise, again, we should, maybe I should not have party. But that's just like they're coming into probably yeah. It's been a while since I was discussing.
You don't have any words on and then the second side is yes. Why I highlight going.
Then that's no.
The whole thing there. Very much. Now, number you don't have. So any
Yeah, on how I do it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
Space on anything.
whenever I go out, I'm sleeping.
Who's the speaker? Hi, everyone. We need to wrap up in about a minute. Tell everybody 1 minute. The checks. We need the checks.
I don't think I'm staying very long on the food because I want to get home.
I know. I know. What we'll do is the moment we are done and we open up the buffet, we'll take photos.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah.
them.
Yes. Send you an email.
Start to read it.
So, just quickly, what we'll do is 30 seconds. And then we will go on to the announcement for the teacher and closing, and then we'll be done. No, there are not. 30 seconds. Finished? Yours is done? Okay.
Is it being cured? The end of it.
Okay. So we would like 30-second feedback from each table just to see how the discussion kind of went. So maybe we start with this table. Yeah? Yes? Oh, we can give you the mic, I think. Okay.
Okay. So we decided to look at section 4, and we didn't get very far. We did 4.1, and we looked at just a few of the key questions. We had a very interesting discussion on the equitable treatment across subjects, looking at history and literature. There were, I guess there was a consensus at the end, but there was quite a discussion in the middle. There is some. We were looking at majority opinion, and then what AI would produce, and whether actually getting all the options from AI and then having a person make the decision might be a better way forward. In order to try and give this more equitable treatment. We also looked at maybe looking directly at the source material and trying to get AI to look at source material rather than look at interpretations might help to generate something that was more fair. But there was a key point that the source material also has a bias inherent in it. Then we moved into the question on grading, which, that had quite a strong response. There's clearly some amazing things that technology can do in terms of grading. And we had a long discussion about the use of keywords in grading. And I think I rebelled and said, We shouldn't be using keywords.
That's for grading. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's move on to this table. We could just pass that on to here.
At education and how it has fundamentally is going to change during this interaction with AI, and what actually needs to, how we can, what skills would be required for students in future when you have all these things can be done by the AI or technology. So, and the conclusion sort of is that we have to look at the skills that actually industry needs. So by going back to the fundamentals that what actually we are producing in schools and university is what is the workforce that is needed in industry. And what they actually want, and there are skills that cannot be reproduced easily by AI is like personal skills. It is the problem-solving skills when you're dealing with new information, new situations, and things like that. It is the holistic approach for teaching and learning, which covers a lot more than just the curriculum. And the issue in education is the quantity. The larger population, larger schools, you're dealing with numbers, and it's not easy for the teachers or lecturers to deal with numbers. And to deal with, it seems that AI it's suggested that AI could actually help in that sort of thing to help the teachers to deal with the numbers, to maintain that holistic approach in teaching and learning, to be able to produce students and graduates that are more concerned, more skilled on problem solving and their personal interactions with other people, which is actually required by industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Third table. Professor Nader's table.
Very quick summary from what I captured out during our discussions. I will lie a little bit, okay? Don't say anything. Right, but some keywords flying around, I think was prompt engineering, which is important, but also a lot of talk about training, the importance of training of educators. I mean, for them to be there, I think we need to really acknowledge the fact that educators are not yet there, and we need to partnership also. There are two types of partnerships from the industry and the education. I mean, educators, we need the industry who are really there technically, and they know the game, to actually come and join hand with educators to upskill them so they can actually help students. Also, the gulf and the silos between students and like the we and them, students and teachers. We have to partner with students because it has to come from them. And I think that is the most important thing when students are themselves, like mentioned earlier about last year and this year and the difference. We have to trust them. And we have to partner with them rather than to police them and catch and punish. This culture has to go. Yeah, so they're all students, the industry educators, the training, the building skills, and the prompt engineering. Anything else I've missed? They know.
No? Yeah, very good.
So that.
Good. Okay, last table.
So in this table, I think we had, I think everyone's covered quite a lot. We got stuck in the first few questions, but what we decided was, yes, equity was important. We talked about access, and from the point of view of students, teachers as an example. And I think we had some great examples here in schools, how they prepared teachers to manage students for the age of AI. One important thing was how AI was useful in classrooms to customize for different students' learning needs that came about here. And I really liked the examples that they shared. When we asked the question, should we have a policy? The understanding was better to have a framework. It would be far more easier to implement. And the framework was interesting because it was not just teachers and students and leadership in education, but it was parents that needed to be involved, and it needed to be a regular thing since AI was changing. So I think that was important. When we spoke a little bit about culture, we said that was very sensitive, and perhaps the curiosity and the discussions that you have in the classroom on outputs of AI were important for cultural understanding. And when we just started discussing what were the important frameworks that we require, I think one of them was we definitely needed originality, and to highlight that for the students, how important that was. Another thing that was mentioned was security, because when they use AI, there's this loss of data or security. And right now, no one has ownership for it very often. So that was another interesting question. We also said when it comes to evaluating students on learning outcomes, you could use AI, but there was a lot of qualitative measures that teachers use currently right now that AI actually cannot capture. So it was important to make sure that you could look at some quantitative, but you had to be very clear that a lot of it is qualitative.
Qualitative, yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. As you may have noticed, our students were taking notes because we would like to collate all of this and start working on the white paper, which is our next stage of the project. Over to Leon.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leon, and I'm the Vice Chair for the Student Board at the Center and a second-year student at UOWD. As we approach the end of this evening's formal session, it's time to celebrate the winners of the Teachers Incubator Program. This initiative has empowered educators to leverage innovative practices, fostering a new generation of inspired learners. Now I hand over to Dr. Zeenath.
Right. So, as we mentioned, the Teacher Incubator Program was really, really exciting. We had 24 schools, 50 teachers, 7 judges, and we do have a couple of the judges here today. And I would like to invite particularly Dr. Estelle to say a few words because she was actually there for the 2 days of the incubator, and she actually engaged with the teachers for the 2 days on their ideas of, proposals and eventually judging those proposals. If you could just say a few words. Absolutely. So from the 24 schools and 50 teachers, ultimately we got 9 proposals, which came down to 4 finalists. These finalists were Al Durra International School from Abu Dhabi, Ambassador School Sharjah, Cambridge International School Dubai, and MSB Private School Dubai. We had schools from all Emirates. So we had schools from Ajman, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah, Dubai, Alain, which is not an emirate, but we've had schools from Alain as well. So this was not a very easy process. And I think at this stage, before we announce, I would like to invite Dr. Stephen, who was also one of the other judges, to judge the 4, to just give us an overview. Don't give us the answer. Just give us an overview. Just give us an overview of what your feeling was when you were looking at these finalists' proposals.
from the industry buying something which getting the support from their management to experiment. There was a second stream, which was where the faculty were inventing their own pathways forward. So they were experimenting with themselves, but then they were forming a nice reflective loop of teaching and learning at the same time. And I thought that was the second stream. Another somewhere in between.
So I think the proposals kept you on your toes. Awesome. And as we said, we had 7 judges and we had 2 rounds of judging. We had the local judges from the UAE universities, and then we had 3 international judges from European Network from Academic Integrity. One was from Czechoslovakia, one was from Turkey, and one was from UK. So the judging was very, very transparent, and it had nothing to do with us. I didn't even know till yesterday night what was the results and feedback. Okay, so I think I've dragged it as much as I can. I should make a move. So before I do, I would like to invite the board members from the center, please, if you could come up in front. Dr. Ashraf. And I know I have got at least 2 of our partners, Eugene and Dr. Fadi. If I could please have you guys on the stage in front as we announce the winners. Okay, all right, so without further ado, let's look at the first winner. Ambassador Stool Sharjah. This school also has their principal here, and he's been supporting this project from the beginning. So, Mr. Arogia, please do the honors and bring your team up. Nawar, sir, please. Okay. The trophy? Chris has the trophy? Trophy? Abba, সামনে আসো. So the whole part about this project that I didn't mention before this point was that we actually got partnered with industries to offer a cash prize or a grant for the teachers to implement their ideas in class next year, from Jan to March. So this is the prize they're getting. Mr. Keba, a few words. If we could have the guests on one side so he can speak at the mic.
We thank Wollongong University for this great opportunity that is given for our the Academic Integrity Center. So it was something new when it came to us, and it was a big challenging thing to know about, and there was a lot of bonding and there was a lot of integration, there was a lot of learning which took place on those 2 days and really helped us to brainstorm a lot. And it was a really challenging thing to think about what is in real need of present education. Of course, we do include inclusion, we do have assessments, but all these is in place. But what is something more beyond that, that is what we put into our thoughts. And along with our colleague and with support of our principal, we were made it possible. And we thank Academic Integrity Center and Wollongong University for their approvals and honoring us. Thank you. So, yeah,
Thank you. So if we could request the winners to take their seats, but everybody else please stay on, because we do have one more winner. All right. Before we do, I just wanted to read out from the judges' comments. They highlighted innovative use of AI for equitable and inclusive assessments based on Bloom's taxonomy and leveraging partner companies for the program to provide trial licenses. They were the only proposal that actually worked, I think, with Power School. Where's Dr. Fadi? Yes, sorry. And they took them off their offer to try out Power School for 3 months. So they actually cost us nothing. Proposal. So that in itself was quite innovative, because everybody doesn't always think, because you think you're getting money, let's see how we can use the money. But they thought beyond that to see how can we really make this sustainable and use the trial that was being offered to actually implement this in their classroom. So we really look forward to what this project looks like by the end of March. Thank you. Okay, the second winner is MSB Private School. Tasneem. So for MSB Private School, the judges appreciated MSB Private School's proposal for integrating magicschool.ai and other AI tools into teaching, emphasizing their potential to personalize and enhance student-centric learning. Congratulations. Thanks. Could we have all our guests please come together closer for a photo? Leon, go back so you can get everybody, yeah? If I could just request the guests to stay on, because we would also like to recognize our finalists. Yeah, the other side. 4 certificates. The ones at the bottom, I think. No, that one. Neha, that one. 4. No. Those ones. Those ones. Yes. Thank you. Okay, could we please have Cambridge, because Aldura kind of disappeared on us. So the only other finalist we have is Cambridge. Can we please have you guys on stage for your certificates? Come inside. Wait. Certificates are coming. No. Okay. From the food. Okay. Okay. Who's? Yes. Thank you.
Before we move on to the last segment of the evening, we would like to welcome to the stage Mr. Nawar Al-Hakim, Head of Freshman Studies at UOWD, to give the closing speech.
Just a quick conclusion. I want to thank all the participants. You've been great support, whether in round one, which was done a couple of months ago, like Mr. Eugene and others. And also I would like to thank many Wollongong old friends, Professor Mudadina Stevens, thanks for your support. Professor Ashraf Mahati, thanks for your support. And also all the Wollongong staff, like Professor George, a really great presentation on AI automation. Professor Nader, we really appreciate your strong support this round and the previous round and many other events. Ajman University has been great support to Wollongong and vice versa. So many thanks. Forgive me if I don't mention all those who have contributed to this event, but I wish all the winners great wins, let's say with the Dubai initiative. And because Professor Ashraf is the chief economist in the Dubai government, I must acknowledge the vision and the efforts of Dubai government and their leadership in introducing innovation in education. Thank you.
Thanks to all our speakers, panelists, and participants for making this event so inspiring. The decisions tonight highlight the power of collaboration and the shared responsibility we all hold in shaping a future rooted in integrity, ethics, and innovation. Thank you.
We close with a special thanks once again to, of course, Global Challenges, because that was the funding that kind of initiated this whole process, and to our partners who have been with us from the beginning in August, the moment we decided we were going to do this, and they jumped in. So I would like to invite Dr. Fadi and Eugene, because they are here, to say a few words before we conclude.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zinat. Look, it's a real honor and a pleasure to be with you all. When this thing started, to be quite direct, I was hoping that there will be lots of things, but I wasn't expecting to have this kind of turnout and this kind of not only recognitions, but also what has been throughout the journey, all of the developments that happened, and definitely all of the contributions and what happened. And I think we are witnessing today a good start of what generative AI could be in the education space, things that for us in the industry, we kind of only hope that these things will kind of push the industry towards more and more developments. I would really like to thank everybody for their time and for being here. It's really wonderful to see all of these efforts coming together, and that can only get us into what we hope AI will help us do, which is becoming more and more productive. Thank you all for your contributions. Really a pleasure.
Yes, hello, my name is Eugene. I'm the CEO and founder of Voicy. We call ourselves as AI Academy, and we basically help educators to get upskilled with AI. And it was an honor actually to hear quite a lot of insights today that educators are actually willing to learn about how to use different applications and already doing that. I'm really glad that actually Tasneem won the prize, because she's been with us with our events and our activities for a long time. So she's one of the favorite of mine, but that's not I wasn't in the judgment anyway. So, but congrats to all the winners and to all the finalists. I'm really hoping to see what you're gonna do with all of these prizes and what all of this kind of resources, and I'm willing actually to support you as well, to if you need any kind of any support from our side as well. So please do contact us and or do ask us things, you know. But And the last thing, it was an honor to actually be part of this initiative. Thank you, Dr. Zinat. Amazing organizing skills of all of these activities and amazing people and amazing partners. Thank you very much.
We have no more speeches. We are done. Now we have like dinner and networking. Before that, if we could invite everybody for a group photo, then the finalists, and then the winners in that order, please. Everybody in front. Thank you, Dr. Outside.